What kids movie has no right to be as good as it is? Monster Incorporated, we got a 2319. Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. Treasure Planet, classic literature meets science fiction interpretation that I found delightful and would watch again and again. I was obsessed with this movie when it came out. I was 15, and so was the main character. And I think I just felt his loneliness and uncertainty about his future so deep down in my soul. It's so hard for kids to deal with that feeling of not belonging and not living up to the expectations being put on you. It felt like the movie was kind of panned upon its release and nobody around me seemed to like it. Plus, being into animation Disney movies at age 15 felt so uncool. But this movie basically helped me decide that I wanted to be an animator and make movies and tell stories that could help other people feel less alone too. Now I'm an animation director, and it feels so fitting. It's also really uplifting to see that people appreciate this movie now, even though it got such lukewarm reception when it first came out. It gives me hope that the stuff I work on that isn't as well received or popular right now might still be reaching people in unexpected places. One sincere kind word about a project I work on still outweighs 100 bad reviews. I was floored by Coco. Turned it on as a take a nap on couch movie, and here I'm totally invested in the story and tearing up holes. 100% nearly flawless movie. In 5th grade I read the book, and immediately afterwards I read it with my parents. We all loved it. The movie is an excellent adaptation, largely thanks to the screenplay having been written by the author. Don't forget the ridiculously good casting. All the Mice movies: An American Tale, Fievel Goes West, Secret of NIMH, The Rescuers Down Under. I lived in New York for a while and was horrified by the thought of having to kill a little Fievel. Edit: never watched The Great Mouse Detective, but I'm thinking I'm gonna have a classic Mice movies day and watch it. The Great Mouse Detective is the best Sherlock adaptation. Changed my mind. Ah yes, the Disney movie with smoking, murder, alcohol, inebriation, a whole ass strip show. Classic Disney. Homeward Bound, live action talking pet movie shot mostly in the woods with limited human interaction. If you didn't get emotional when Shadow returns home, you have no soul. Matilda. Danny DeVito and Miss Trunchbull are great. Matilda is such a classic. I remember always trying to move random shit with my mind after watching it as a kid. Never worked and still doesn't, but it's worth the try every time. George in the Jungle. Say what you want, but Brendan Fraser was a big part of my childhood after dinner, especially in The Mummy and The Mummy 2. We taped George of the Jungle off the TV on VHS with all the ads, and one of the news anchors in the ads became one of our favorites because he was almost part of the movie for us. He said something like, "Well, now from George of the Jungle to George in New York." Turned out he was high all the time on the news and got fired for it. He's clean now. I just looked it up. Love you, Darren from TV3, wherever you are. Kaya Kaha. The Sandlet. Somebody once said why The Sandlet is so good: it's not about winning, it's about being a team. That speaks a lot to this movie and why it's so damn rewatchable. Hook. Way better than any children's movie I can think of besides Princess Bride or The Neverending Story. Robin Williams opposite Dustin Hoffman with Bob Hoskins and Julia Roberts, all playing characters like it was the most fun they'd ever had. Whenever I see that "Oh There You Are Peter" scene, I get teared up. A Muppet Christmas Carol is the best version of A Christmas Carol. Ratatouille. Remember watching it as a teen and loving it, and now I can appreciate even more of it. The designs, the animation, and the fact that those Pixar folks made us cheer and love a rat. Also, School of Rock is just amazing how good it is. The soundtrack is one of the best out there and all the children acted amazing. And what to say about Jack Black? He is just great every time. The Goofy movie smacked while I was a kid, and even more so now that I'm a grown-ass man. Edit: glad to see I have this in common with so many people. You all are the goats. Also, thanks for the awards. The soundtrack in that movie is Eye to Eye is a ducking jam. I found a Powerline concert shirt at a Target once and didn't hesitate to buy it. Treasure Planet. Wreck-It Ralph. I'm bad. And that's good. I will never be good. And that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me. I was in tears laughing when this came up in the very beginning. Bad Guys Anonymous. I mean, freaking genius. Hysterical. But man, when it comes up at the end, woohoo. I was a sobbing mess. Amazing how those arcs work. Meet the Robinsons. I have a big head and little arms. I don't think this plan was very well thought out. My family loves that line and use it whenever a plan is not working out. Labyrinth. David Bowie is amazing, and that is some of the slickest puppeteering I've ever seen. All Wallace and Gromit films are fantastic, but A Grand Day Out was made on 10,000, and you can tell. Not because it's shoddy, but because not a single movement of its clay animation is wasted. It's perfect. The amount of time and effort that film must have taken baffles me. The ending of A Grand Day Out brings me to tears of delight. Even hits harder with age and experience. It's a box that doesn't talk, and yet you can feel every emotion it's feeling. When you see it skiing up and down, and the simple pleasure it's expressing, it's just wonderful. Ferngully. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. Edit, thank you for the awards. My name is Batty. My logic is erratic. My brain's all static. Humans don't have tails. They have big bottoms that they wear with bad shorts. And they walk around going, hi Helen. Price check on prune juice, Bob. Price check on prune juice. Heavyweights. That movie is hilarious. Edit, thanks for the award. Kind stranger. Hi. Oh, look at Ellie Meat. Oh shit. I'm finally relevant. Thanks for the awards. To celebrate, we will be going a 20-mile hike. There will be no food, no water. This is a cleansing hike. Cubo and the Tooth Strings. As is the case with Laker films, the animation is fluid, vibrant, and expressive. But it's also worth noting that the film's story feels emotionally complete. Although Cubo seemed to come and go with relatively little fanfare, it did receive Oscar nominations for both Best Animated Feature and Best Visual Effects. And it is apparently the first film to be nominated for both. The only significant knock is that there are barely any Japanese or Japanese American voice actors featured in a movie that is supposed to be a samurai epic of sorts. But Cubo does incorporate element of Japanese folklore in a natural and powerful way. Small Soldiers from 1998 still holds up and still freaking awesome. Lilo and Stitch. I watched this again recently as an adult, and I realized it's a story about an older sister trying to keep her family together with some aliens thrown in. Had me crying throughout the whole thing. Much different than how I remembered it as a kid. Yeah, it's really heavy. Like they even got Lilo's acting out and tantrums from trying to process losing her parents right. And Nana's room has lots of awards for surfing, implying she gave up that career to take care of Lilo. Yep, I was lucky to have both of my parents happily married into my 30s. I have to imagine that movie hits hard for anyone who grew up without them. I can't believe no one has said it, but I personally love The Prince of Egypt. I'm not religious, but that movie is so well made. The soundtrack is fantastic. I get mad chills at Deliver Us. Megamind. I'm doing horrible things to that man. I don't want to get into it, but lasers and spikes. Please. No, not the lasers and the spikes. You know the drill. Oh, no, not the drill. Shut up, you horrifying abomination of science. Wait, me. Oh, no, not you, Roxanne. I was yelling at my mother's urn. Tangled. It perfectly shows off emotional manipulation. And the songs and art are fantastic. My only critique is that we didn't get to see the aftermath of Rapunzel coming to terms with her trauma. But it's understandable given the time restraints and target audience. Up. I'm an adult man and the opening sequence just broke my heart. I sobbed like I haven't in a very long time. I feel like everyone forgets the scene where Carl looks through the adventure book. I feel like that is more emotional than the opening. Carl believes that he didn't get to take Ellie on the adventure she wanted, only to realize that their life was the adventure and she wouldn't trade it for anything. Thanks for the adventure. Now go have a new one. El Dorado. Atlantis. Treasure Planet. El Dorado really walks the line on kids movie with some of the stuff that's in there. More like Chel Dorado. Both is good. Shrek 2. The Iron Giant. Second place The Brave Little Toaster. The Iron Giant has some of the absolutely best animation. My wife always likes to look my way at the ending. She knows the waterworks are coming. She gets a kick out of it. That kid movie and Wreck-It Ralph always get me to cry at the same scene. First time I saw the girl return home in that Pixar film Inside Out. Got a kid about the same age and we were nearly on the verge of moving far away. It literally hit home hard, and that scene got to me. The way that girl doesn't say anything when she is home and just starts crying assassinated my masculinity. It was a one-shot kill. A headshot to the emotional barrier I had spent 30 years building. Bing Bong was worse for me. WALL-E. The Define dancing scene link is absolutely gorgeous. How to Train Your Dragon. Cubo and the Two Strings. It's an amazing story and is so underrated. The Lego Movie. I was expecting it to be a 90-minute toy commercial. Instead it was really good. With a good message about creativity and some great songs. Also Lego Batman was better than most live-action superhero movies. With a good message about creativity. I think the real message is that there's no wrong way to play with Lego. The kid is right that creativity and doing your own thing is important. But the dad is right too that sometimes you can get value out of following the instructions. There's multiple times where Emmett saves everyone because he's the only character that can stick to a plan while everyone else is impulsively master building crazy stuff. Not to mention that his double-decker sofa was the only thing to survive the attack out at sea. Not to mention that his double-decker sofa was the only thing to survive the attack out at sea. I have no idea what I just read and I now desperately need to watch that movie just so that this sentence makes sense. XD. Big Hero 6. Hair White Baby. Coco had absolutely no right to be as good as it was. First act it's a silly kids movie. Last act what no way. I saw the ending coming from a mile away and I bawled for half the movie including the ending. Kung Fu Panda. You'd expect a lot of fat jokes and not much else. But all three movies are fantastic in terms of action, drama, and emotions. You saved me. Why? Monkey. Ratatouille. A bunch of rats in a restaurant should not make such a great movie. The monologue by a Golink at the end always makes me cry. Pure brilliance. The scene where Anton tries Remy's dish and it reminds him of his mom gets me. Spirited Away. Legendary director at his prime with a movie that he was given full creative control over with a decent sized budget and no forced tie-ins or studio meddling. This movie is amazing, but it has every right to be amazing. It's how amazing movies should be developed. Very well put. One thing that is apparent about Ghibli films is the lack of focus group style editing. A lot of the film's idiosyncrasies would never fly in the Western market. It's also interesting how Spirited Away largely throws out standard plot structure and pacing. The journey is much more important than the plot. Overall, this film is a glorious explosion of creativity and emotion that's never been quite recaptured by them. Ponyo is a very worthy successor for similar reasons like I mentioned above. It just doesn't quite reach the same heights. Emperor's New Groove. Pull the lever crank. Wrong lever. Why do we even have that lever? The Land Before Time. An American Tale. And All Dogs Go to Heaven. These Don Bluth films from the 1980s are just on another level when it comes to kid movies. The Rescuers Down Under. Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. Although the franchise has now been ruined,